you're just joining me, my name is Aaron Apter, professional drummer here in Nashville, and I feel like I've been living online lately. So I've been streaming a lot of my gigs live this week. So I've been playing about 2 gigs every day this week, and I usually try to stream at least a bit of it for 1 gig, maybe some 2 of the gigs, or show a little bit of that online. And since a lot of people interact or watch during this, watch my gigs, and I can't really comment while they are watching, I decided to come on here and do my weekly live chat and ask or answer any questions. So if you have any questions about what I do, who I am, what it's like living, working in Nashville, what it's like working as a professional musician, fire away. I literally just finished a gig, packed up all my stuff, ran back to my space so I could start a live stream. So yeah, it's like I'm pretty much living online. Hi, Maggie. I see that Maggie's waiting. Maggie, let me know if you can hear and see this right now. Ah, there we go. So hey, Maggie, thanks for coming on. I'm sorry. I think I've noticed you commented on a few live streams, but really when I've been playing lately, I've been not looking at my phone or not looking at screens because I really just want to be in the moment and play music and focus on playing the music. But if you have any thoughts on any of these gigs you've seen, any questions, shoot them at me. Do I have a beer to share with you? No, I don't. I have a LaCroix. I could share that with you. But no, I wish I had a beer right now. It's been a long week, but no, I do not have a beer. Yeah, so it's, I'm still trying to piece together everything that's happened this week, everything that's happened in the past 2 weeks, because I've just been, I go on the road for a week or two, and then I come back to town, and I play and I work. LaCroix it's a seltzer water. It's basically just canned sparkling water. But I really like to share a lot of my experiences, like give people a look at what it's like to be a fly on the wall as a musician here in Nashville. When I moved to Nashville at the end of 2022, at the beginning of 2022, I didn't plan on playing music at all. I came here to work in rehab for musicians, and just being around music kind of gave me the bug again. And I'd played music my whole life, but I'd really stopped playing. And I resumed my career I decided to go full-time in March of 2023. And doing this later in life, or doing this I had another career and I just stopped that in order to pursue music. I wanted to show people what it's like as you're climbing up the ranks. And this week was a typical week in Nashville for me, where I feel like a lot of things are moving, a lot of things are going on as well. I can't even remember all the gigs I played because so many of them are just like someone's calling me last minute, say, hey, can you come down here? We need someone to play right away. And I showed up. I showed up at a gig this week, and they called me, I think the gig's happening in 10 minutes. Can you show up here? And I say, I can do that. Just tell me, is there a kick drum pedal? Is there a snare? Is there a throne? What do I need to bring? They said, all you need to do is bring your cymbals and a kick pedal. So I showed up, brought my cymbals and a kick pedal, and there was no snare drum. So I had to play 2 hours for a country music set with no snare drum. And so I posted a little bit of video about that, me improvising what to do in that situation. My car also fell apart last week. It literally came apart as I was driving down the highway, and I haven't really had time to go out and buy a new one because I've just been playing so much. I played another gig at Dee's Country Cocktail Lounge, which I love playing there, and they broadcast their gigs usually, and they did this week, so I don't have to do it. But then I went to look back at the rebroadcast, and they forgot to, I think they had all the mics muted except the acoustic guitar. So that gig sounded really great in person. Online didn't sound so good. I'm trying to recount. Friday, I actually did 3 gigs in one day, so I played 12 hours. I couldn't even record the first gig. I was able to record the second 2 gigs, and yeah, you could go back and like look. There's just like a stream of so many live gigs, and really, when I'm doing these, I think that they're not that interesting. They're not that interesting to me because I do it every day. But I found that people really enjoy watching these, and it gives them insight at what it's like playing in Nashville. And I'm just playing one aspect of it. So I'm kind of like have my fingers in a bunch of different pies. Like I'm working down on Broadway, which is primarily country music or cover songs. They're honky-tonk gigs. They're 4-hour shifts. They make really good money, but they can be really exhausting. And you have to spend a lot of time in there, in that scene, to make it financially viable. But it's also, in terms of career success, that doesn't lead to as many great things. Or you have to really be intentional with what you want to do down there and playing your pieces. Because I see people who play down on Broadway make great money, and they go nowhere with their career, and they're fine with that. They just want to make money playing music and then go home. Yes, Zach does drums. Yes, that's what I do. And so we got a question here. Hey, Aaron, I'm a drummer in Nashville with a full-time job that still wants to make drumming a hobby. Is it possible for me to market myself strictly as a session player? Well, so Tate, that's a really great question. And I always tell people I'm not the end-all be-all on anything. I'll just give you my insight and my experience. So I've lived in a couple different towns, big cities. I've lived in like New York and Chicago, Pittsburgh. And one thing I've noticed, like a big city like Chicago, people work day jobs, and they could also like do like work as a musician on the weekends or do session gigs. And that doesn't mean they were better or worse than musicians in Nashville. One thing I noticed about people in Nashville is primarily like, if you're playing music here, most people are playing this for a job. Now, not saying you can't work a regular job and be a session player, but so Tate, it's like, what kind of sessions do you want to play on? You know, do you want to play on major records? Because that's going to require some effort to break into. That's going to require like a lot of networking and time, like what they call paying your dues. Or you could maybe set up your own like drum tracking studio in your space and record on your spare time, like market yourself online, like on Fiverr. My friend Nicky V, he does tons of recording from his home, selling tracks to people online. And it's really like, what do you want to do and how do you want to do it? So there's like nothing impossible. Like, yeah, you can work a job and be a session player. I would say it's pretty hard, but nothing's impossible. Like, think about, what do you want? Like, what's a session player to you? Define that. Define your goals, your wants and needs, both in terms of finances, both in terms of time spent in the field, and in terms of fulfillment. Because sometimes you can make a lot of money and be very unfulfilled. Sometimes you can make no money and be extremely fulfilled. It's like finding what balance is right for you. Hello, Lewis. Thank you for subscribing. And yeah, so any other questions, please let me know. But again, if you just go back on my live streams, you see like a good sampling of what I did this week. Was played some original music, played a couple original gigs, played a couple Broadway gigs. I played a couple like just literally, I think I played like 3 or 4 gigs where I didn't know the majority of people on that stage, and I like literally met them when I walked on the stage. And that seems to be pretty much a novelty for people, even musicians outside of Nashville. But in Nashville, a lot of that is just like people eat, sleep, and breathe music here. And once you're like kind of in this culture, you kind of adapt to it, and then you learn about like what things that work. What things that work for getting into gigs, what things that work on stages, the songs everybody knows. And so and Dan, so Dan the drummer, he's a drummer from Utah. He's 40, I think he's 40 years old, and he's thinking he wants to make a move to Nashville. And he messaged me yesterday, and he was like, "Hey, take a look at my playing. Do you think I can make the move to Nashville? Do you think I'm good enough?" And I said, honestly, Dan, I looked at about 30 to 45 seconds of your video, and you can play. Like, I didn't really pick it apart. I didn't, break it down frame by frame. I was like, oh, this person can play drums. Cool. And that is such a small part of succeeding here as a musician in Nashville. It is very much a relationship business. It is very much about networking. And I say it's better to be a C- player and an A+ person than an A+ player and a C- person. I would take the A+ person every day, because sharing a stage, sharing space with people, I want to work with people that I enjoy. And people want to call people that they enjoy. And it's not something about just being a nice guy or just being an easy hang. It's about kind of knowing how to read a room, knowing what an artist wants, what they value, and also like doing things like being on the road. Like, oh, can you keep your bunk space clean if you're on a bed, or if you're sharing a hotel room, can you keep that space clean? Can you be at the lobby on time for a call? If you have a rehearsal, are you showing up and knowing the material, not learning the material at rehearsal? Like, are you prepared? Skill has something to do with it, yes, but it's so much about getting in here, having the right attitude, and being professional about it. And yes, Maggie, I am really from Pittsburgh. I grew up in Pittsburgh. I studied at Duquesne and CMU when I was younger. Pittsburgh's a great music city. It has a great, rich musical history. Some of the best jazz musicians in the world, some of the best classical musicians in the world, and I studied both of those when I was in Pittsburgh. And it took me a while to adapt to the way different people play in different areas, because people play jazz in Pittsburgh very differently than they play jazz in Chicago and New York. Yeah, and so when I grew up in Wilkinsburg area, Penn Hills and Wilkinsburg area. That's where I grew up in. Yeah, and yeah. Oh no, and so Dan also lived okay, so you lived in Cannonsburg. Oh, Cannonsburg, Washington, so right down 79, yeah. And I find that every time I move to a new city, it takes me about 2 to 3 years to really kind of get the vibe of the city, get the vibe of the music, of the culture, feel the pulse of it. And one thing about Nashville, Maggie's in New Ken, right down the turnpike. Cool. One thing I found that, like, when I lived in Columbus for a little while, and Columbus, Ohio, and it had some of the best musicians in the world. They were just so different than the musicians in Pittsburgh, of a different variety. Same with Chicago. Chicago has a different feel, different energy, different pulse. And bringing it all to Nashville, it's taken me a while to get used to Nashville. I'm definitely, I would say I'm definitely more of a Chicago person culturally, food-wise, just my vibe and my energy. Nashville is a different place. But picking up on the pulse here of the people, and also the music and the way things are done here, it's taken me about 2 or 3 years. And you really have to, one thing about Nashville, if you're gonna be in Nashville, jump in 2 feet. Say, this is my home. I'm not gonna think about what it was like playing where I used to be in. This is what it is now, and this is what I need to do to adapt. I was just talking to a really successful, one of my colleagues yesterday. I think he's going to go on to some really big things. He's doing great things right now. I'm going to air, we actually sat down for a long form interview. I've never done one of those. And I intended on it just being like 5-10 minutes, but we spoke for about a good hour yesterday. And it's about like moving to Nashville. It's about coming up in a scene. It's about things like insecurities, things like going to therapy, things like, oh, being a musician is so much more than just playing music. It's about navigating a scene. It's about like your approach. It's about, what kind of attitude do you want to have? So yeah. And I don't know who would take me with it. I'm not sure where that's at. But yeah. So I'm gonna air that video probably around Thursday or Friday this week. I also probably on Monday or Tuesday I have a big book of charts that I've used for about like the 4,000 songs I played on Nashville's Lower Broadway. Uh, and I wish you would have did a video that would have been nice and good. Okay, well, I mean, That video, I have that video from that conversation. It's gonna come out, I think, on Thursday or Friday. Also have a video coming out talking about, everyone wants to know, what songs do I need to know to play in Nashville? What are the songs you need to know? And there's so many different ways to go about that, but I literally have 4,000 charts from me playing in Nashville. And I actually think I have a link to that chart book that I put in this in the description here of this video. But I'm going to release a video of that about what songs you need to know, and it's gonna also, like, it has, that link I have has the list of 4,000 charts. You didn't make me mad, Maggie. I just was confused what you were saying. And it has okay. Sorry, I got this dude, he's going crazy because I just got home. Also, I have a video about him coming out because I rescued a stray kitten about a month or two ago. And yeah, that's you, buddy. And he's also, I started an Instagram account for him, trying to find him a good home, trying to adopt him out, and just to put pictures all in one place. And long story short, he has over 10,000 videos, 10,000 viewers, like fans right now online on his Instagram account. He gets gifts every day in the mail because people just love his videos. It's wild. And, you know, some people are like, man, that makes me so mad. Like, you've worked so hard in the music and the YouTube thing, and like you get a cat, and then in a month he gets like more views than you. I'm like, well, he's cute, but it's also like, why does it, like, social media doesn't matter that much. It matters a little bit, but if you just like speak authentically and do your thing, like, are you trying to do this for followers, or are you just trying to do this to help people? So yeah, and I think, oh yeah, Maggie. So I really think, so talking about my friend who's going places, yeah. One piece of advice I really like to give people is to really root for other people's success in an honest and earnest fashion. And don't focus too much on it, but really celebrate it. Because I love seeing my friends succeed. I'm super happy about that. You know, one of my really good friends in town last year started going on tour, gigging with Bob Dylan. And I was just so over the moon for him, because I'm like, wow, one of my really good friends is playing with one of the greatest, most influential people of all time, of musicians of all time. And I really think there's enough work for all of us in this music scene. And music is such an individual thing. And like, it's really rooting for your friends, cheering on your friends, cheering on your colleagues. They need that. And it's good for you as well. I mean, it's good for your soul. And seeing your friends succeed is a great thing. And eventually, like, if you celebrate other people's successes, you will end up becoming successful. Instead of like being envious of it, just say, okay, what are they doing? How can I do that? And also, it's one of the best things you can do to network when you're in town. Help out other people. And so I got so many videos coming out this week, and I might have to pace them out. But I was saying that I was talking to another musician earlier this week. His name's Felix. He's a new drummer in town. He moved here from Orlando. He's been following me on YouTube, and he came out to one of my gigs. And I said to him afterwards, like, I said, man, one of my best pieces of advice is, like, you need to get to know people, make relationships, and then think of, instead of just asking for someone, say, hey man, I would love to come sit in on one of your gigs. What can I do? Can I, like, you know, buy you some coffee? Instead of doing that, like, tired old routes, that doesn't do anything for somebody else's musical career. And some people, out of the goodness of their heart, they will help you. They might like you for some reason. And I try to do that with people, but my time is really limited right now because I'm doing so many gigs, doing so many videos right now. I'm doing session work. Like, there's a lot of behind the scenes work going on. I just don't have time to go to lunch with somebody, to get coffee. It's just, I would love to, but I can't. And it's not like, and I was saying that I'm not important at all. Like, I'm just a working musician. I'm not saying this like, oh, I'm too much of a big deal. But what I was telling this Felix guy was that a great way is if there's somebody that you want to get to know or you want to develop a relationship with them, think of what can you do for them? How can you help them out? How can you ingratiate yourself to them to make yourself valuable to them? And I've used this example before. When I first got to town and I was checking out musicians, I would always take video of them while they were playing. And I would send them some video or send them some photos of like, hey, you were great today. I got some video of you if you want to use it. And some people didn't even respond. Some people actually loved it. And that started a relationship with them. And when I play, I oftentimes do video, like I'll create videos of us playing and I'll share it with everybody who's in the band I was playing with. And that's of utility to them. And that makes them think, maybe I can call Aaron because he always has something good going on, like, or he'll always post video. He's valuable to us that way. Maybe you're somebody who's like really good at setting up guitars and basses. Maybe you offer, say, hey man, let me just set your guitar up for free. Maybe you can get a gig with them. Who knows? And so Dan asked me what was the deciding factor in making you move to Nashville. Well, that's a pretty long, complex story, but it was around COVID. And I was living in Chicago and I hadn't been playing music. I'd been actually working kind of in rehab, helping people deal with injuries and actually doing rather successful. I was making probably the most money I've ever made in my life. I had the most freedom I ever had in my life in terms of finances, in terms of jobs, because I was self-employed. And I ended up talking to some Nashville musicians, who were kind of like in a place where they needed they were having some aches and pains and some injuries. And like, I kind of had this background, I spent years as a musician, then I transitioned to working with injuries. And I was just talking to somebody, a good friend of mine. I was thinking about starting a new chapter of my life, like a new personal chapter, a new business chapter. And I thought it was great to start over in a new city. And I moved to Nashville with the intent of kind of establishing a business to help musicians rehab their injuries. And that's what I did for about my first year. And it took a little bit while to get it going, but I was up and running and it was going well. And where like the momentum was building and I was just really just unhappy and really unsatisfied and I didn't know why. And I ended up going to therapy and just like, there's just something I'm just miserable. I'm just insecure. I am not happy with myself. I am acting in destructive ways and unhealthy ways for me and my family. And just after a little while, I figured out, I just want to play music. That's what I want to do. And that's who I am. And it took some courage to just abandon my career and jump 2 feet first into playing music. And once I did that, like I was much more content and fulfilled in terms of my career, in terms of just like the work I was doing. I was like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's really difficult in terms of just starting, like I started from scratch again as a musician. Like I had no instruments at all. I hadn't played for years. I didn't know anything about country music, but there was just something about it that I just wanted to do. So I didn't move to Nashville with the intent on playing music at all. So yeah, that's one of the things that I'm proudest of, that I was able to come here and then just start over again and play music even though I didn't intend to. And there's been like a lot of other moving parts and pieces in my life that I'm still kind of working out and sorting through. But one thing I've kind of really, okay, I'm a musician and I can make a living doing this. And I really had to I wouldn't almost bottom out and start over again. And it's been a tough climb. And I'm not going to say it's easy. And I hope no one else's journey back to music is as tough as mine was. But letting you know it doesn't matter what age you are, you can always start again. It's not going to be easy. Like whether you've been playing for years or just started, it's not going to be easy. If you're moving into a new town, there's some element of starting over again, even if you've been playing for a long time. And so that's what I had to do. And you can go back and look at my videos, but like you can see like that's when I started leaning into YouTube as well. You can see some of my initial initial like drums that I played here with, they were just terrible. And you can see my videos, they were much different quality and they were just a much different focus because I was just throwing shit on the wall, seeing what stuck. And I kind of feel like I'm still doing that today. But I also look back at my earlier videos, my earlier playing, and realize I don't feel like I've come a long way. But then I look at that and I'm like, wow, I've come a really long, far way. Oh, and Jonathan Palmer says, heck of a show today. Thank you. I'm guessing you were seeing, I was playing with Cara Granger today. We were playing Acme. And that was, yeah, and so I set up a couple cameras for that, and I didn't get the good audio feed that I wanted normally because I just didn't have time. That takes a lot of time and energy. Like, live streaming gigs for me usually takes an extra couple hours for every gig. And Maggie, if you want to be my PR person, please go ahead. Please have at it. I could use all the help I can get. Yeah, I live streamed the gig, and I was like, I don't have like the good mics up, and I couldn't connect all my interfaces and do like the live streaming thing for, but I was just like, you know what? I'll just use the onboard mics. It may not sound that great, but I think something is better than nothing. And so Jonathan asked, are you using the original Big Fat Snare ring or one of the other models? It's a great question. So I got the original Big Fat Snare ring. I also used the Donuts. I also used the Quesadilla. I used to use a Jingle ring. And I really like to switch those out in between songs, depending on the song, depending on the vibe I want to get. Sometimes I stack them, like 2 on top of each other, sometimes even 3 to make it sound really dirty and ugly. And I also, some of the gigs I like to play with 2 snares. And I'll play with a Ludwig Acrolite and a Black Beauty. And I have them tuned a little bit differently so that I can have kind of one uglier, fatter, sloppier snare and then one that's kind of like more of a crispy, bright, cracking snare. And I really like to change like the big fat snare drum heads in between songs on it, almost like a guitar player would be changing pedals or tones or pickups. And for me, that's super important. It's also one of the reasons why I want to get a good mic setup so you could actually hear those nuances. And sometimes you can't do that when I'm just using the onboard mics. But yeah, Maggie, if you want to do PR for me, please. I would love that help. I was actually thinking about hiring someone to do like help me with video, help me with cataloging, help me with just like running all this stuff because I have so many different things going on. I'm also looking to hire a video editor right now. Because yeah, that takes up a lot of my time. And so Maggie says, if I got good at the banjo, could I come? I mean, you could. If you got good at the kazoo, you could come to Nashville. You can literally play anything here if you want it bad enough. Doesn't mean it's gonna be easy, but you can find a way to do it. Jonathan asked what heads you use on the Black Beauty, perhaps a controlled sound Remo. Yeah, I think I'm using, with a reverse black dot Remo head on that Black Beauty. And that's for like more of like if I want like a fat, heavy backbeat or like a good crack. On the Acrolite, I usually just use a Remo-coated Ambassador, and I'll usually have a big fat snare drum on it, and I'll tune it really low and sloppy and ugly. Yeah, so that's what I do with those. You know, and every gig I'm going to tune a little bit different, but I try having an Acrolite, having a Black Beauty is a really good way to go. I mean, Maggie, if you got a resume, if you have any background in PR, marketing, and video editing, yeah, shoot it over. AaronAftermusic@gmail.com. So do we have any other questions, any other thoughts, feedback about like playing in Nashville or just playing music in general, being a working musician? Let me know your thoughts because really this is just like a live chat instead of me just talking at the camera. I really want to know what questions I can answer, how I can help you guys. And yeah, I think after I end this live stream, I'll probably shut off my phone for a little while. I'm going to, knock on wood, I'm going to try to take a day or 2 off, just get reorganized. But yeah, the work and the gigs never end. But I'm thankful to be working. Dan asked what cymbals do I prefer? I prefer what cymbals I don't have to travel with and what cymbals are there. I hate traveling with cymbals. I hate lugging gear around. I've always used Zildjian cymbals. That's just what I've used. I like the ride cymbal I was using today. I've had it probably for, man, almost 20 years. And I have a really good relationship with that cymbal. Like I know it, I know how it responds and what sounds I can get out of it. Um, I bought some Sabians from Kenny Rogers' old drummer earlier this year. So I have some Sabian AAX that I take on Broadway gigs. I played Zildjian mainly most of my life, but I think cymbals are such a unique thing. And it's all about like, what they're like shoes. Like you need different shoes for different things. And John Palmer, what's my favorite bass drum pedal? I'm really liking the new Speed King. Man, I mean, I don't care that much about bass drum pedals. I don't know why people have cared about them. As long as it works. I'm not doing blast beats or anything like that. I'll use a Tama Iron Cobra when I'm playing on Broadway. It's just pretty durable. I have a DW5000. I also like to use a DW9000. But man, it's just like, you know, like what kind of gig am I playing? And if I don't have to take gear, great. I like the gear that's there that I don't have to play. And that's one great thing about Nashville. A lot of places have backline kits. Or that's one great thing I've been doing like with some of the touring is that, okay, like I need to make sure that things are having backlines. Yeah. And Dan's asking me where I get that American flag bass drum head. It's a good question. I have no clue. I bought that drum set from a guy who was moving out of Nashville, and he was trying to clear out some of his drum gear. So that's a DW. I don't know what kind of DW. I think it's a DW design kit. Yeah, and that's something I like to use for kind of more rock heavy gigs. Yeah, but that head was already on there. It's like, all right, cool. Do I have a gong? I do not have a gong. I would like to have a gong, but it's not very practical in terms of size and in terms of transportation, in terms of storage. But you know, having a gong would also be really cool. But no, I do not have a gong. I do not have a tam tam. Yeah. But again, like I moved here with no gear. I think I had like maybe like $500 worth of musical gear when I moved here. So have I been to Steve Maxwell's drum shop Forks yet? So I've been to Forks. Forks is really cool. They have lots of stuff. Is a great store, great knowledgeable people. I hate going into Forks. Not because of anything about the store or the people. It's just like, it's just an onslaught of noise and chaos. And like if I want to shop for something, I just want it to be like chill. You know, but yeah, it's a great store. I just hate going in drum stores because there's always so much noise going on there. There's some other really great drum shops here in town. Also, Nelson Drum Shop. They sell more vintage drums. They also did some servicing on that vintage Ludwig I have. I love Drum Supply House. So anytime I'm going on tour where I'm playing, a lot of times when I go on tour, people hire me to play quirky, weird sounds, or not. I'm like playing percussion, I'm playing drums in a way that's like very like, I'm paying attention to the song and putting shakers and cymbals in certain places and just adding little bells and whistles, and Drum Supply House is like king of that place. And do I have a preference to drumsticks? Like, drumsticks is like, again, every gig is really different. One thing I really like to do sometimes when I'm playing, I'll either play with Steve Jordan sticks or I play with Steve Gadd sticks. I like the way they feel. I've just gotten used to them. But I also think about them when like literally, I think about what they look like when they play, how they would play. I'd be like, oh, Steve Jordan wouldn't hit this hard, man. Just kind of like I kind of like that, or like, what would Steve Jordan do? I've also used I like the Buddy Rich because they're like baseball bats. I use them on Broadway, or like the Nersey by Innovative Percussion. But like with gear, like I'm not a gearhead per se. Like I definitely pay attention to the gear I have, and I'm like, okay, what can I do to get the job done? And I don't think like something being good or bad. I'm like, oh, what flavor is this? What sound is this going to create? What's unique about this? And I always kind of would rather, I'd rather sound like me and sound different. And like if I'm playing a jazz gig, I'm going to use a very different stick than if I'm playing like a pop rock gig, than if I'm playing a hip hop gig, than if I'm playing a funk gig. It's also like, what kind of venue am I playing? How long is the gig? Like even things like that. And like I've just ended up playing so much that like a lot of times I'm like, okay, I just need to get through this gig. Or not get through this gig, but it's like I don't have so much time to think about that. Like I have several sets of cymbals and cases here, and sometimes I just grab the one that's closest to the door, literally, because I'm just going in and out so much. Same with drum kits. So what other questions do we have about music? If you're new here joining, say hi, say where you're from. Let me know if there's any questions I can answer for you. And I usually like do this for about 45 minutes, so I'll probably be here for a few minutes, and then I'm probably going to shut things down and try to take a little bit of a sabbatical, or get caught up on all the footage that I have to catalog from the gigs. And then also like the stuff you see playing music, there's also so much business stuff that goes on. So much like, okay, I need to track my finances. I need to do this. I need to get this thing going. I have this project in the works I need to be making progress on. I'm also like working on a solo album. There's so many different things going on that aren't music and that are behind the scenes. And I try to share a lot of things, but then there's also like, there's some times where I'm like, I just don't have the energy to do, Maggie, drop me an email, aaronaptermusic@gmail.com. That'd be great. But there's a lot of times so doing the YouTube stuff, both like doing live chats, doing live streams, creating, videos that are kind of more feature or tell a story or like give an example of what I'm doing. They're all great and I love doing them. It all requires a massive amount of energy and focus, and it's easy to do for a day, a week, a month, but doing it consistently over time, it's very much a marathon and you need to pace yourself. And I think a lot of times they'll see, somebody like, they just put up this cool video, I can do that. And they don't realize all the hard work that goes into like figuring out your voice, figuring out how you do this, figuring out what time to post or how to shoot things, or figuring out what battles to fight. It all it takes time and energy. And and Jonathan, thank you so much that you enjoy them. So here's my thing with the live streaming of the gigs, and I'm kind of on the fence about it, and I'm thinking about stopping doing it for a couple reasons. Sometimes it takes away from my focus and energy during the show, because I have to get there about an hour early to set things up, and I also have to do like a lot of work beforehand to make sure all the infrastructure is in place. But I also have to spend money on streaming mobile data. I also have to spend money on hard drive storage, and then there's also the time of like breaking everything down, cataloging it. Also, like sometimes equipment breaks or goes missing when you're doing so much of this stuff. And it's really like, okay, I need to either be making more money off my YouTube, I need to start charging somehow, or I need to take a break, because things are kind of, in terms of the energy and the money I'm investing into it, it's great. I love doing it, but I feel like it might be taking away from the music or my energy, or I might be, the return of investment on terms of my money is not where it needs to be. So that's why I always and I never want to charge people for this, but that's why I always say, if you donate, that's great. I never want to make this like, you got to pay to see this. But if people donate, it goes right back into the channel. And I lose money on doing this, and I never did this to make money. I did this because I thought, what's something I could have used when I moved to town? So I could see what it's like to be on a Nashville gig, so I can see what another Nashville musician is doing, how they're navigating the scene, so I can learn from that. Because a lot of the things I talk about aren't really commonly discussed here. I don't know if people are trying to gatekeep or like put up like this like, curtain, but like it's like this big tough, it is a tough place, but it's like you can do it. Um, but I love doing it, and I want to give that people like the motivation and inspiration to do that. But it's also, man, it's been really grinding and draining on me. And it's not a negative thing, but it's like also like I have to pace myself because music career, it's a marathon. For me, it's a lifetime thing. And I don't want to burn out. And I'm feeling like a little bit pulled thin here, both in terms of time and money. So I'm like maybe peeling back on gigs, focusing on some other things, but I need to find a way to monetize my YouTube channel a little bit more so I can keep that going and keep putting stuff out. Maybe hire someone to do some editing, maybe hire someone to take on the work for me. But so yeah, I always put donate links in my videos. If people want to donate, that's very much appreciated. And it's never expected, but that will help me keep the live streams going. Yeah, thanks Mojo for watching. And Maggie says, what's more important, money or being true to yourself? Well, like I've always valued being true to myself, yeah. And you also need to, like, people, they say you never got into music to make money, but like why do people get into being a lawyer or a doctor? They probably enjoyed it, but they also wanted to make money. And I also think that musicians should be paid. And I didn't get into this to get rich, and I love doing this. And I also want to build a career for myself and build something sustainable so I can continue to help other people and have a wider footprint. And kind of like reinvest that into the musical community. And yeah, this is like, it's my job, it's my career, it's my life. I live and breathe and die for this stuff. It's just a full-time thing. And so Joe says, I did a couple gigs without cameras, got so much footage backed up on those particular venues. It was pretty refreshing, but I asked that yeah, sometimes taking a break from recording is easier. And I'm always like, oh, what if something happens? And Maggie's like, what about getting sponsors for drums or sticks? Maggie, I would love to make that happen. Maybe I could have a PR person do that. But one thing about like getting sponsors, it's basically when you're getting sponsors, they want someone to be an advertisement for them. Okay? And so I would need to have a bigger audience for them to give me anything for free. Usually they give you things at cost, but essentially you are just buying stuff from them at a discount. You don't get things free. They don't pay you unless you're a huge star. That's just the way that aspect of the business is. Yeah. Man, like you record your playing at church today and live streamed it on Instagram. It's literally like another job. And there's so many, like even if you have like 10% of your focus on the live stream thing, it's like that's 10% less that you can put into the music. And so also keep in mind that I'm doing this, like I'm walking into a gig, I have about 20 minutes to set up. And I'm trying to manage audio signals from multiple cameras. I am trying to like make sure that that stream is up and it's connected and it's healthy. I'm making sure I got a good angle. And also like, oh, does everyone know, do I know the songs? It's crazy. Yeah, and I definitely don't think any ants are going to sponsor me. Yeah, but yeah, I love doing what I do. And I also like to be able to eat. And that's like a reality of playing music. Sometimes you have to make financial decisions and you have to know which battles to fight. And when I was younger, I was like, you know what? I went to school for music. I'm not going to play a gig for $50. And so I refused doing those gigs because I'm like, I need to be paid for my skills because they are worth something. And was I right? Yeah. Did that help me? Absolutely not. And so when I got back into Nashville, I was playing gigs for like $25, which is, yeah, that's well below market value. Is that unfair? Absolutely. But doing that and really thinking about not playing gigs isn't just about making money. It's about making connections. It's about building your name. It's about, you have to be really intentional with what you want to do and say, is this going to help me with my desired goals? And like, what am I going to get from this opportunity? And it's not just money. Yeah, and Joe, I haven't named the cat yet. Sometimes I call him Mr. Jellybean. Sometimes I call him Buddy, but he has quite the fan base on Instagram. Fun for Instagram. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so Dan, like when you're starting and stopping things, well, yeah, it's like you're being a cameraman, you're being an audio engineer, you're being, you're managing social media, and so all that stuff is really important because you need to like let people know that you're playing and that you're out there. But it's also like, do you need to do that every single time? I don't know. Sometimes I honestly feel the pressure because I want people to know I'm playing and I want to be in the forefront of people's minds so that they're more eager to call me. But then also it can be really exhausting over time. And it's really about just like finding a system that works for you and with your needs. And like Maggie about being happy, like watch my live stream today playing with that band. I love playing with Cara and David and Doran. And I did not as much setup as I did normally. And I just sat down and played. And I was like, watch the live streams from the drum camera. Watch my face. You'll see. Like, those are the moments that I really, really love. And I'm willing to do all the other things, all the other sacrifices to get to those moments that I love. And I know that playing music is really a journey. And, like, what are you willing to do along that journey to help further your goals? You know, what are you willing to, I'm not saying sacrifice, but like, you have to think, what do I want? Where do I want to go? How am I going to take those steps? And not every step of a journey is easy. And not every step of a journey is fun or enjoyable, but overcoming those difficulties is really a fun part of the process. Yeah, and like, yeah, Dan, like starting, like I do the same thing. If I'm playing with tracks, if I'm playing with a click, like, yeah, I have to do that while I'm playing. If you look at I think I did a live feed last Saturday night at the Valentine. I was also yelling in the talkback mic. I was telling the bass player, these chords, this is the chords coming up. There was literally songs where I was telling him every chord as it came. I'm like, here's a 3, here's a 6, 2, 5, 1. Like, you have to, there's a lot of multitasking that goes on. And Stoney, man, hey, Stoney, thanks for, I see you commenting and following all the time. Thank you so much. I really, and I appreciate the engagement. I can't always respond because so many things are coming back and forth, but Stoney, definitely, like, I see you out there. Thank you so much. And, you know, you appreciate your honesty and vulnerability about playing. You know, he's in the same boat. Yeah, like, that's also, I talked about that with my friend yesterday about, I intentionally decided to be honest and vulnerable and authentic. Like, that's what, like, I was like, that's my voice I want to use on social media. I want to be as real as possible. Because I found that trying to have this persona or this character that you play on Instagram or on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, it can be effective and fun for a little while, but it's exhausting. And then, like, you're always on, you're always performing. You feel like you have to be this version of yourself that isn't real. And that can be exhausting. And that can be like, that just feeds a lot of our insecurities as well. And I've really struggled with a lot of insecurity. And I found that if I can just really be open about it, say like, listen, I'm scared, I'm unsure of myself, does a couple things. It kind of makes that fear a little bit less. I give it less power. But I'm also kind of opening up about my journey and giving other people permission to fight those same struggles. Maybe giving other people permission to do things like go to therapy. Maybe giving other people permission to like research addictions and research like things that can really set us off course. Because like you need to have a healthy body, but you also need to have a healthy mind. And that makes you more resilient when you're playing. And pursuing music is really stressful. It can be really hard. And the more sound you are emotionally, mentally, physically, the better your chances are. And I think if I'm just being real, that's more emotionally sound for me. I'm not faking it. I'm not playing a version of myself. I'm just being real. And that's a skill. It takes time to develop too. I found that when I first started doing YouTube videos, I would talk in this different voice and this different tone, even this different body language. And now I'm kind of letting that go and just being myself when I come on here. And Johnson says, looks like I've been playing more nighttime or primetime gigs lately, or perhaps I'm just streaming them frequently right now. I mean, yes to both of those. So a lot of time, so it depends on the venue. Some venues aren't really conducive to shooting. And that's just, some venues I don't have time to set up. Sometimes I'm just so freaking exhausted. And yeah, I get what you're saying about prime time. One thing I found about Nashville is like you can make money at any time of day. And sometimes playing this prime time when like looks like the bars are packed, they don't pay as much. Because you have younger people out and there's more and it's wilder, but they tip less. Sometimes you're playing a gig at like 2 in the afternoon, there's like people who have money, business people who are here for a conference, and they're like, hey, I want to hear this. And they go, but yeah, like right now, like also, my car literally fell apart the other day, so I need to buy a new car. So I've been like, so I need to actually like go find a new car. And so I need to come up with several $1,000s in a very short amount of time. So I've been taking a few more gigs here and there. Truth Hurts, thank you so much. So yeah, I'm just about out of time here. But if you have questions, you can always leave them in the live chat. I'll try to answer them later. You can contact me at aaronaftermusic@gmail.com. But I always say like follow, subscribe, comment. Any engagement with this channel is really great. I'm starting a newsletter. So if you can sign up, I have the link here in the description. I'm also starting to sell like some of my book of Nashville music charts. I literally have a book of 4,000 charts that I'm going to be, that's already out there. I'm just going to make a video for it right now. I'm probably going to price it at probably $200, $300. But right now I'm just doing a test run at $99 because I want to get it in a few people's hands before I really start advertising it. So check that out. It's an invaluable tool. I wish I would have had it when I would have came to town. But as you can hear, it's like I'm losing my voice right now, just because I'm freaking exhausted from, I think I played 12 gigs this week. And I know people who do like 20 gigs per week. But yeah, after doing 12 gigs in a week, I'm like, okay, I might need to take a day off. But yeah, if you know someone who would like this channel, man, forward this to them. And if you would like to donate to the channel to help us, there's some links in the description as well. But thank you so much for coming on this chat. I hope everyone has a great Sunday and great week. And I'll see you guys next Sunday, or I'll see you on my next live stream. Everyone have a great day.